Hello everyone, and this is David with the Reformed Apologist channel. I have this video planned today to talk about one of my original songs, that's it's been released on digital channels, platforms. And the title of my video, well, let's just say it's in the title. I'm going to go through the whole song, Debaters Haze Craze, and in parentheses here, NewJeans, the girl K-pop group, also known as NJZ, since their labels split. Naming concerns answered. It is an apologetics question that should have been dealt with by people, actually, whether that's biblically proper and ethical to have as a group name. And I'm going to end up saying that that's okay, actually. So I recently realized what my song was saying biblically. So I decided to give a talk, and I realized that it touches upon the group NewJeans or NJZ. So for the remainder of this video, I'm going to call them just NewJeans. They were called that originally. I didn't have a problem with the name. They want to be called NJZ and stuff, and they have a label issue currently. And it's overuse of their name too. So like I said, my original song, it is called Debaters Haze Craze. And this obviously harkens back to the time when there was still a ministry at 3rd Street and outreach that I was involved with, and everyone was still doing it who I knew. I'm not sure if it's still going on. I've not been over there in Santa Monica, but this harkens back to that time. And I was involved roughly from when, like 2008 until 2009 until like 2011, 12 or 13, even 2014 a little bit. But and that was on YouTube too a lot as well. So I'm going to go through the whole song, but the central theme to this song seems to be that there's a person in question. There's a person who goes by the wayside. These are just general ideas. There's a person who goes by the wayside, and a more suitable one replaces that person. That's a general idea, and that could be a lover, significant other. But then the song gives a subtle reference to something which suggests a biblical narrative. So now we're referencing a sequence of events in the Bible, book of Genesis, and this is the parallel. And this parallel starts with a reference to the Nephilim in Genesis chapter 6. So I turned this into a Bible study. This topic became a Bible study. And so the central theme, the person that goes by the wayside and a person replaces them, or whatever, that could be a whole people group or a whole nation or a whole world. That's relevant to NewJeans, and obviously like somewhat of a fan, and had to interact a little bit with them, just a slight bit. It's quite possible they were following my channel too before, but this is relevant to the topic of them because their name is known as a play on words that meant genes as DNA, like with a G, genes. So I'm going to approach the question which should have been asked and answered by now: was their name ethical and proper in biblical Christian terms? Now with the whole apologetics team, we would have gotten to it by now, and everyone would have like tore it up and talking greatly and broke everything down and said, well, this is this and that is that and this and this, and this is what it is about the Nephilim and the race that was wiped off by the great flood off the earth and stuff. So let's start with that. The Nephilim from Genesis 6 were the race that was wiped out in the great flood judgment for their wickedness. So reading now from Genesis 6, for the Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward when the sons of God came into the daughters of mankind, and they bore children to them. Those were the mighty men who were of old, men of renown. Then the Lord saw that the wickedness of mankind was great on the earth, and that every intent of the thought of their hearts was only evil continually. So the Lord was sorry that he made mankind on the earth, and he was grieved in his heart. Then the Lord said, I will wipe out mankind, whom I have created from the face of the land, mankind and animals as well, and crawling things and the birds of the sky, for I am sorry that I have made them. But Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. So I'm stopping there at verse 8, and that was Genesis 6:4 through 8. And that's where I get the word the Nephilim from. They were giants. Basically, they were possibly a strain of human. That's a whole topic as to what exactly the Nephilim is. But we know they were like a giant race of human, basically. That's my understanding. It's similar to another biblical word. And I think it's Anakim or something like that. But anyway, going on from there, before I get to the other things, we see here that God can exercise judgment and wipe off almost everyone off the earth if he so chooses. We know in God's promises he will not do that again the same way, so to speak. So now we're going to take my song. Now, this is not necessarily a sacred song. It's only the impetus for this study, talking about the topic of DNA and genes and that kind of thing. Yeah, someone's lover getting wiped out. No, that's we're going to get to what I'm saying. Or a lover with better DNA replacing somebody. Anyway, so let's start with this. And like I said, it's secular, it's not sacred. So I know some people that bother some Christians, but let's go from the beginning. And this is all my like playing and singing, and it's a song that I wrote as well. So I'm gonna play each part of it, then stop it as we go. So okay, the sound or the style of the beginning instrumentally and stylistically is like La Bamba, the Mexican folk song made famous by Richie Valens and Los Lobos, especially in a film soundtrack from the 80s, I think. So to me, my personal interpretation of that, I might be way off. I've even asked a relative who's from there about this. He can't disagree, but I'm not sure he 100% agrees. He's just okay with it. La Bamba, it's like doing something twice that looks funny to do twice in a row. And also like, no, I'm doing a new way of saying that there could be two more different instances of something. Why don't I like bomb you with like a paper airplane and bomb you again with the second paper airplane? It's silly kind of, but to me, like the characters I'm saying in the song have more than one appearance in my life, and they reappear in the guise of a different person. It's a certain type of person that reappears as a different person, and that's just my personal interpretation of the song. The song gets deep, so I realized I have a deeper song than what I first ascertained, because the Holy Spirit helped me write it. Praise God, amen. So let's go on from here. So beginning sounds like La Bamba, that's why. And the dance La Bamba, it does something like that, where they do two things twice in one dress, like that and like that. Okay, so here we go. Now getting back to this, now we're into the characters. I'm going to back it up a little bit because Tim here, the Nephilim and Tim, okay? So that's Tim. Tim was my friend only. Okay, he was my friend only. He was never a lover. Nothing ever more than friends. Because I'm straight, but he was a college friend. So I was young and still learning like life. He was also openly homosexual, so he became a distant friend. We only talked and only learned a few things from this person, about life. He felt that way about himself from the time he was a child. Actually, he was quite good at explaining it. He was good at explaining me too. He always explained me as straight, so he was very good at explaining me to other people. He was an extrovert. extremely charismatic. So he also worked for he had worked for a well-known congressman before. He was an interesting person, a Republican congressman. Um, but since he was openly homosexual, I've lumped him with the Nephilim in this verse. So the song is not saying that I was ever in love with him, or that I am in love with him. I liked him as a person, sort of as an acquaintance. We became distant, not that close, by the time of his suicide. No one says incapacitated swim about someone they're in love with. So again, I knew him in college. He committed suicide when I was still in college by drowning. I'm not sure it was officially determined as a suicide, but he apparently did do that. He somehow drowned in a lake. He took a boat out to the lake and somehow drowned. So I think he jumped from the boat somehow or fell out into the water in a quasi mistake and drowned. It seems like a suicide, let's just say. And no one says incapacitated swim about someone that they're in love with or lovesick, or I don't love him as more than a friend. I did not. I'm kind of over the grief too. They were just an acquaintance by the time of the end of it. So here I've likened it to Nephilim. He's gone from the earth, right? So this should be an interesting topic to everybody. Let's move on to the next part. Okay, so next comes Eliwish's bear. Refers to someone else that I knew after that, and here there are multiple different people it could be. It's basically a practical woman. Someone who's very practical in their way. They try to get things done. They're hunter-gatherer type. So she goes around the city in her vehicle trying to do errands a lot to get things done. The name Aloysius means famous warrior. So I was looking for a parallel in the Bible after that, which appears after the Nephilim, and I settled on Nimrod, okay? But that's an imperfect, parallel, which is okay with me. There's not a better one than that. So, the Bible verse there is Genesis 10:8-10. Now Cush fathered Nimrod. He became a mighty one on the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Therefore it is said, like Nimrod, a mighty hunter before the Lord. So now in the Bible, God did away with the previous generation, Genesis, and a new generation sprouted up from Noah, the types that were Nimrod, for example. A great example of someone who is considered mighty and great, who appears after that point, basically. Great example. So the basic question here is how to deal with a situation where one person falls by the wayside or whatever, and someone else comes to replace them to be a helpful person. That's like new genes or new DNA, where the other DNA was under judgment, and now here comes this new DNA, new genes that is being a helpful person to you, okay? And what does that justify exactly, right? Now let's go on here to the chorus. Am I still recording? Yes, I'm kind of out of practice mode. Here we go. Let me get into my iPhone. Let me move it back a little bit here. Okay, so this chorus is easy to explain. We're the guys who know it. We're the guys who know the Bible and apologetics, Christian apologetics and ethics, who can explain what I'm trying to say there. How come there's this person and that person? How come something doesn't work or whatever? We're the guys who know it. How come they're all below it? So we're the guys who are the exact type who are like the street apologists from the Promenade Ministry. If not those exact people just like them. Well, if I ever want to have apologetics team again, I probably have to build it myself now, and take people by the hand individually, because no one's going to work for money in this. It has to be people who it's in their heart to do it. They have a fire within to defend the scriptures, to be Bible defender, faith defenders. That's like an interesting type, hard to find unless you just start yourself and you have people going to you who want to pitch in. So hard to do. So I'm going to say more about the chorus when we get to it again. And verse 2 here now. Okay. So this is the verse after the chorus. Guitar solo next. Okay, so verse 2 is mentioned in now Ellie Wish's teddy bear. Verse 2, I think, is really Minji, NewJeans Minji. So, because she actually shared a nice teddy bear photo on phoning, on the phoning app when they're still running it. So let's do it. Okay, so like I mentioned, that's Minji probably. It's not the same Wish's bear from verse 1. I made a nice chart about this right here. Let me get my camera app up here. I can see what I'm doing. Yeah, Debaters, Haze Craze, verse 1. Nephilim, Tim, Genesis 6. And Nimrod, Wish's bear. Also, Mighty Warrior, Some Woman I Know. Okay, and that's from there. And here we're dealing with the wishes again, but it's Minji probably. So let me get my notes up to go on here longer. Going on almost 20 minutes, 17 minutes. Here, so Minji had that photo on phoning the teddy bear. I might take this opportunity to describe the time I met her in person. Since I'm running along, I'll just mention like I was busking as a musician, and Minji and Hani went over to me. It seems it was right on the date of their Supernatural song release. That's when she went to me. It was last year, basically, before they split with their label. So I had just barely learned their group name. All I would have been able to say is, here's some NewJeans girls, hello, how are you doing? We sort of said hello, and it was fleeting, but they, since I was on phoning too, I still had Minji's love notes, and she verified that it really was her that I saw. She said like, yeah, my face never changes, what's your problem, Dave, or whatever. But I have Minji's love notes to me specifically. She seemed to indicate she loved me on phoning, which is fine. I told her a similar sentiment back. But a lot of people, if they didn't know why these people know me, is that I'm also a musician as well and a composer. So I was known for doing that in my career and teaching. So that's how I was known before. So it doesn't surprise me people in the industry know me. All right, so that's how. So in that verse, there's a saying, strident money can't be so fair. That could be referring to their label problems after their payout, meaning they got paid what they were owed, because they were just a wildly successful group. They hold the Guinness Book of World Records record for the fastest K-pop act to reach 1 billion streams on Spotify. They achieved that on 219 days. Okay, they had only 6 songs on Spotify at the time and achieved a world record. So a billion streams is pretty good. So now they've been on hiatus and mostly silent. They seem quite silent when it comes to making public statements or reaching out to fans. It's that strident money cannot be so fair, and they have legal trouble. That's what I think is the strident money. I would be remiss if I did not mention the Bible story of Ananias and Sapphira in Acts chapter 5 in regards to strident money. So this is biblical backing. Strident money can't be so fair. Acts chapter 5 is a pretty good example. Both Ananias and Sapphira were struck dead for withholding an offering from the apostles. Strident money can't be so fair, basically, yeah, right? I might want to get some water here. It's a long talk, you know. The rest of the song is fairly forgettable personal anecdotes. Let's just go through here. Oh yeah. The other thing about this chorus is that it has a gesture of falling slightly to one side like this, like you're lovesick. When a person's lovesick, they swoon. Swooning's the word. Yeah, you swoon, you fall over a little bit. So when it goes, where are the guys who know it? It's like swooning. That's the gesture of the music during that. So it's swooning for one of these ladies, perhaps, while saying something serious about what's needed to have happened. If I had an apologetics team at the time, it would have been just about as stellar as NewJeans. Yeah. The gesture is more pronounced the second chorus, because I just talked about Minji, basically. Personal anecdote. Are you a jinn, meaning a ghost or transparent apparition? Or are you really a person present in the room? Yeah. It's my solo and yeah. Okay, so that was the Pupils in Philosophy verse. This one refers to the guys from the Third Street Ministry getting mired in philosophy, or all dug in to a philosophical quandary about metaphysics, almost by the end of it. Someone was raising some questions that were way out there, like someone felt they had to answer perfectly. It's like you could just ask a basic question back, like, what do you mean in the first place? Why do you think that you have to create a construct that you can't find your way out of? You're the one digging yourself a hole, and now you can't get out of the hole that you yourself dug. You see, that's like typically what but it's like, you know, I had college philosophy. It was somewhat helpful. I'm not sure a lot of the other like people who preached with us also had college philosophy, but they were well read actually. So, you know, goes to show you it's okay. Yeah, the thing about lovely ladies denigrate, what I just said in the verse, lovely ladies denigrate things of value that they say, that they don't think are okay, but they're really okay, actually. They denigrate those things. I'm reminded of this thing, this part of Isaiah that I have written about in my memoir, Isaiah 34. It's my book, A Dragon Comes as Well. Basically. But basically, if I can find this right here, I have a moment of truth here. Can I find? Yes. I didn't see this. It popped out at me like by God's Spirit, I think. 34:11. I didn't address this particular one that much in the book, but in 34:11 of Isaiah, this is an end of days like prophecy, I think, a great deal. Where Edom, let me not go there yet. Okay, so here, so it says in 11, God will stretch out over Edom the measuring line of chaos and the plumb line of desolation. You see, it's an exacting judgment of producing chaos over an area. And I've understood from God and the Holy Spirit, the end of traditional marriage and family is a part of that. It's chaotic, in cities like where I am, and there's no like coming back from it. Actually, we're on a fault line in California too, a earthquake that itself is like a, a line that goes straight through like a plumb line. The plumb line of chaos makes everybody like a little bit paranoid something's gonna happen too. It's an interesting thing about things, but yeah, that was the thing in there reminded me of that lovely ladies denigrate. Let's go to the end here. There's an E horn I played on. Now, this ending, this part right here, the guitar work, is stylistics. I'm sorry, I can't talk by the end of this now. Stylistically similar to the group The Body Revels, and those guys are all guys that I know personally, including Scott, who played bass for a group I was in, or with a group I was in. So anyway, this guitar work here is similar to them, and the guitar work in The Body Revels is Aaron Grant, basically, usually, with Scott on bass. But it's, to me, referring loosely to a stunning ex of mine, a woman, by similarity to their style, since their songs from the time, like in, that era was when, 96, 97, it seems to mourn the loss of her, like our separation or breakup to a certain degree. So it's mourning her to a certain degree with me, I think. But I don't know that for sure that Grant would say that or any of them would say that, but to me it is, because it's from the time. So if I put that in my song, that's what I mean then, kinda. But it's looking forward to someone else who's similar to her, basically. So. And the end, bloom and fade. So let's address the eugenics and abortionist implications, both in the NewJeans name and the song that I just played, which is of me, that I wrote. I don't take either of those stances, and I don't think they do either, but I can't speak for them. I'm not an official spokesperson or representative or affiliated. Since they split with their label, it's even more complicated to say that, but whatever. So I'm going to end up saying that their name is okay, but I'm going to explain how my song makes an argument in favor of their name ethically. So basically, there's a creature-creator distinction, and this is something that, never mind how I learned it. There's a creature-creator distinction. God has no law above himself, but he is of high moral character and repute. He's not beholden to the commands that he gave to us, but his commands reflect his character, his commandments, the moral commands that we are to follow. He's not beholden to that. He has no law above himself, but they reflect his character. So due to this, God can execute judgments on a whole people, a whole race, or a whole planet, such as the Great Flood, but it's not incumbent on humans to take that kind of control into our own hands and or try to subjugate or exterminate a whole race, exercising eugenics essentially, And it's talking purely in terms of eugenics, not just war doctrine, or the doctrine theologically or and so forth, in regards to when is it just to go into war for a nation, basically. When is it just for a nation to go to war? That's a separate issue. So complicated topic. Purely in terms of eugenics, no. Okay, so it's the same with abortion. It's considered as taking a life immorally and unjustly, usually, because it's in disregard of the value and precious nature of human life. And there's a thing in biblical ethics that's called the inviolability of man. Man shouldn't be violated all that much. Actually, in Christian ethics, we're not to be violated. Human life is regarded as precious, sacred. We're to be treated with decency and respect, etc. A sense of decency regarding the dignity of persons and man. So, I don't think their name alone, NewJeans, espouses either of those unethical views. In other words, you know, no, I don't think it does. And furthermore, just because God can cause a judgment on a nation or race doesn't mean man has to take that into his own hands. That God can bring about an evil-looking suicide doesn't give man permission to continue doing that, or doesn't give other people permission to continue suiciding. So my song lyrics aren't espousing abortion either, you see. So that's what it says in there. Was Roe v. Wade someone's care? Because it would come to mind like, how come someone could be dispensed with and here comes somebody else? And by the way, like I said, I'm straight. But I think, you know, in terms of the name NewJeans meaning DNA, they thought they were just, you know, it says on their public sites, they thought they were just a new generation of pop music. It's not taken that seriously. No one, I think, thought that right away. People became critical later. So to hear like possible Hitlerian implications into that, it's a fair question or investigation to do. But I think like it was fairly like innocent thinking at first. So, but I think the name's okay. And if any of you are listening, you from that group, girls from that group or management, never espouse eugenics or abortion yourself, and the name should be fine. The name should be fine. Sorry about the background noise. So I'm repeating myself. You know, for pop stars and celebrities and people in the public spotlight, when you get behind a cause, people can see that in your articles or in articles and on your Wikipedia page. So, you know, the charities you give to and stuff as a philanthropist and so forth, people can see what you're concerned about and those kind of issues. So you might want to just consider that, you know. I've gone on long enough. I don't want to talk about the other topic. I have a half-hour video. Yeah. The other topic was man's sovereignty, or sorry, not man's sovereignty, God's sovereignty and man's responsibility. But I'm just going to skip it because I went on for so long. You could read Romans 6 and realize that we aren't to continue in sin intentionally. There's this thing called sin, meaning error, meaning just because God is sovereign doesn't mean humans can't commit error. You're still responsible for yourself. So why don't we just end it here, since I went on for so long. I'm not sure what anyone thought of that, but I felt like doing it since I realized so much about my song, that the song is so much deeper, it has so much more to it than what I originally thought. Actually, yeah. Thanks for listening.